Book 2. They stole little Bridget for 7 years long. When she came down again, her friends were all gone. They took her lightly back, between the night and morrow. They thought that she was fast asleep, but she was dead, with sorrow. They have kept her ever since, deep within the lake, on a bed of flag leaves, watching till she wake. William Allingham, The Fairies. Chapter 22. I wake up at the bottom of the sea. At first, I panic. I have water in my lungs and a terrible pressure on my chest. I open my mouth to scream, and the sound comes out, but not the one I expect. It startles me enough to stop and realize that I am not drowning. I am alive. I am breathing water, heavily, laboriously, but I am breathing it. Beneath me is a bed shaped from reef color and padded with kelp, long tendrils of which flutter with the current. I am inside a building, which seems also of coral. Fish dart through the windows. Nikasha floats at the end of my bed, her feet replaced by a long tail. It feels like seeing her for the first time, to see her in the water, to see her blue-green hair whirl around her and her pale eyes shine metallic under the waves. She was beautiful on land, but here she looks elemental, terrifying in her beauty. "This is for Cardan," she says, just before she balls up her fist and hits me in the stomach. I wouldn't have thought it possible to get the momentum needed to strike someone underwater, but this is her world, and she connects just fine. "Ouch!" I say. I try to touch where she hits me, but my wrists are restrained in heavy cuffs and won't move that far. I turn my head, seeing boulders answering me to the floor. A fresh panic grips me, bringing with it a sense of unreality. "I don't know what trick you performed on him, but I will discover it," she says, unnerving me with how close her gaze comes to the mark. Still, it means she doesn't know anything. I force myself to concentrate on that, on the here and now, on discovering what I can do and making a plan. But it's hard when I am so very angry. Angry at the ghost for betraying me. Angry at Nicasia and at myself. Myself, always myself more than anyone else. Furious at myself for winding up in this position. "What happened to the ghost?" I spit out. "Where is he?" Nicasia gives me a narrow-eyed look. "What?" "He helped you kidnap me." "Did you pay him?" I ask, trying to sound calm. What I most want to know is what I cannot ask. Does he know the ghost's plans for the Guard of Shadows? But to find out and stop him, I must escape. Nicasia puts her hand against my cheek, smooths back my hair. "Worry about yourself. Maybe she only wants me here for reasons of personal jealousy. Maybe I can still get out of this." "You think I performed that trick because Cardon likes me better than you," I say. "But you shot at him with a crossbow bolt. Of course he likes me better." Her face goes pale, her mouth opening in surprise, and then curling into rage when she realizes what I am implying, that I told him. Maybe it's not a great idea to goad her into fury when I am powerless, but I hope she will be goaded into telling me why I am here, and how long I must stay. Already, time has passed while I was unconscious. Time when Madoc is free to scheme toward war with his new knowledge of my influence over the crown, where Cardan is entirely free to do whatever his chaotic heart desires, when Locke may make a mockery of everyone he can and draw them into his dramatics, when the council may push for capitulation to the sea, and I can do nothing to stop any of it. How much more time will I spend here? How long before all 5 months of work is undone? I think of Valmoren tossing things in the air and letting them crash down around him, his human face, and his unsympathetic human eyes. Nicasia seems to have regained her composure, but her long tail swishes back and forth. "Well, you're ours now, mortal. Cardan will regret the day he put any trust in you." She means me to be more afraid, but I feel a little relief. They don't think I have any special power. They think I have a special vulnerability. They think they can control me as they would any mortal. Still, relief is the last thing I ought to show. "Yeah, Cardan should definitely trust you more. You seem really trustworthy. It's not like you're actually currently betraying him." Nicasia reaches into a bandolier across her chest and draws a blade, a shark's tooth. Holding it, she gazes at me. "I could hurt you, and you wouldn't remember." But you would, I say. She smiles. Perhaps that would be something to cherish. My heart thunders in my chest, but I refuse to show it. Want me to show you where to put the point? I ask. It's delicate work, causing pain without doing permanent damage. Are you too stupid to be afraid? Oh, I'm scared, I tell her. Just not of you. Whoever brought me here, your mother, I presume, and Balekin, has a use for me. I am afraid of what that is, but not of you, an inept torturer who is irrelevant to everyone's plans. Nikasha says a word, and suffocating pain crashes in on my lungs. I can't breathe. I open my mouth, and the agony only intensifies. Better it's over fast, I tell myself, but it's not fast enough. The next time I wake, I am alone. I lie there, water flowing around me, lungs clear. Although the bed is still beneath me, I am aware of floating above it. My head hurts, and there is a pain in my stomach that is some combination of hunger and soreness after being punched. The water is cold, a deep chill that seeps into my veins, making my blood sluggish. I am not sure how long I've been unconscious, not sure how long it's been since I was taken from the tower. As time slips by, and fears come to pluck at my feet and hair, at the stitches around my wound, anger drains away and despair fills me, despair and regrets. I wish I'd kissed Tarin's cheek before I left. I wish I'd made sure Vivi understood that if she loved a mortal, she had to be more careful with her. I wish I'd told Madoc that I always intended for Oak to have the throne. I wish I'd planned more plans. I wish I'd left more instructions. I wish I had never trusted the ghost. I hope Cardan misses me. I am not sure how long I float like that, how many times I panic and pull against my chance, how many times the weight of the water over me feels oppressive and I choke on it. A merman swims into the room. He moves through the water with immense grace. His hair is a kind of striped green, and the same stripes continue down his body. His large eyes flash in the indifferent light. He moves his hands and makes a few sounds I don't understand. Then, obviously adjusting his expectations, he speaks again. I am here to prepare you to join Queen Orla for dinner. If you give me any trouble, I can equally easily render you unconscious. That's how I'd hope to find you. I nod. No trouble. Got it. More merfolk come into the room, ones with green tails and yellow tails and black tipped tails. They swim around me, staring with their large, shining eyes. One unshackles me from the bed, and another guides my body upright. I have almost no weight in the water. My body goes where it is pushed. When they begin undressing me, I panic again, a kind of animal response. I twist in their arms, but they hold me firm and pull a diaphanous gown over my head. It is both short and thin, barely a garment at all. It flows around me, and I am sure most of my body is visible through it. I try not to look down, for fear that I will blush. Then I am wrapped in ropes of pearls, my hair pulled back with a crown of shells and a net of kelp. The wound on my leg is dressed with a bandage of seagrass. Finally, I am guided through the vast coral palace, its dim light punctuated by glowing jellyfish. The merfolk lead me into a banquet room without a ceiling, so that when I look up, I see schools of fish and even a shark above me, and above that, the glimmering light of what must be the surface. I guess it's daytime. Queen Orlaf sits on an enormous throne-like chair at one end of the table, the body of it encased with barnacles and shells, crabs and leaf starfish crawling over it, fan-like coral and bright anemones moving in the current. She herself is impossibly regal. Her black eyes rake over me, and I flinch, knowing that I am looking at someone who has ruled longer than the span of generations of mortal lives. Beside her sits Nicasia, in an only slightly less impressive chair, and at the other end of the table is Balekin, in a chair much diminished from either of theirs. You Duarte, he says. Now you look how it feels to be a prisoner, how is it to rot in a cell? To think you will die there? I don't know, I tell him. I always knew I was getting out. At that, Queen Orlaf tips back her head and laughs. I suppose you have in a manner of speaking. Come to me. I hear the glamour in her voice and remember what Nicasia said about my not remembering whatever she did to me. Truly, I should be glad she didn't do worse. My flimsy gown makes it clear I am not wearing any charms. They do not know the gist they impute on me. They believe I am entirely susceptible to glamours. I can pretend. I can do this. I swim over, keeping my face carefully blank. Orlaf gazes deeply into my eyes, and it's excruciatingly hard not to look away, to keep my face open and sincere. We are your friends, Orlaf says, stroking my cheek with long nails. You love us very much, but you must never tell anyone how much outside this room. You're loyal to us and would do absolutely anything for us. Isn't that right, you Duarte? Yes, I say readily. What would you do for me, little minnow? She asks. Anything, my queen, I tell her. She looks down the table at Balekin. You see, that's how it's done. He appears sullen. He thinks a lot of himself and mislikes being put in his place. The eldest of Eldred's children, he resented his father for not seriously considering him for the throne. I am sure he hates the way Orlaf talks to him. If he didn't need this alliance, and if he weren't in her domain, I doubt he would allow it. Perhaps there is a divide for me to exploit. Soon a parade of disease is brought out in clutches full of fur, so that even under the water they are dry until about to be eaten. Raw fish, cut into artful rosettes and cunning shapes. Oysters, perfumed with roasted kelp. Raw, glistening red and black. I don't know if I may eat without being explicitly granted permission, but I am hungry and willing to risk being reprimanded. The raw fish is mild and mixed in some peppery green. I didn't anticipate liking it, but I do. I quickly swallow 3 pink strips of tuna. My head still hurts, but my stomach starts to feel better. As I eat, I think about what I must do. Listen carefully and act in every way as though I trust them, as though I am loyal to them. To do that, I must imagine myself into at least the shadow of that feeling. I look over at Orlaf and imagine that it was she instead of Madoc who brought me up, that I was Nicasia's sort of sister, who was sometimes mean but ultimately looked out for me. At Balekin, my imaginings bulk, but I try to think of him as a new member of the family, someone I was coming to trust because everyone else did. I turn a smile on them, a generous smile that almost doesn't feel like a lie. Orlaf looks over at me. Tell me about yourself, little minnow. The smile almost wavers, but I concentrate on my full stomach, on the wonder and beauty of the landscape. There's little to know, I say. I am a mortal girl who was raised in Fiery. That's the most interesting thing about me. Nicasia frowns. Did you kiss Cardan? Is that important? Balikin wants to know. He's eating oysters, spearing them one after another with a tiny fork. Orlaf doesn't answer, just nods toward Nicasia. I like that she does that, putting her daughter above Balikin. It's good to have something to like about her, something to concentrate on to keep the warmth in my voice real. It's important if it's the reason he didn't agree to an alliance with the Undersea, Nicasia says. I don't know if I am supposed to answer, I say, looking around in what I hope appears like honest confusion. But yes, Nicasia's expression crumples. Now that I am glamoured, she doesn't seem to think of me as a person in front of whom she has to pretend stoicism. More than once? Does he love you? I didn't realize how much she'd hoped I was lying when I told her I kissed him. More than once? But no, he doesn't love me. Nothing like it. Nicasia looks at her mother, inclining her head, indicating she got the answer she wanted. Your father must be very angry with you for ruining all his plans, Orlaf says, turning the conversation to the other things. He is, I say, short and sweet. No lies I don't have to tell. Why didn't the general tell Balekin about Oak's parentage? She continues. Wouldn't that have been easier than scoring Elfham for Prince Gardan after taking the crown? I am not in his confidence, I say. Not then, and definitely not now. All I know is that he had a reason. Doubtless, Balekin says. He meant to betray me. If Oak was High King, then it would really be Madoc who ruled Elfham, I say, because it's nothing that they don't know. And you didn't want that. A servant comes in with a little silken handkerchief filled with fish. Orlaf spears one with a long fingernail, causing a thin ribbon of blood to snake toward me in the water. Interesting. Since it's not a question, I don't have to answer. A few other servants begin to clear the plates. And would you take us to Oak's door? Balekin asks. Take us to the mortal world and take him from your big sister. Carry him back to us? Of course, I lie. Balekin shoots a look toward Orlaf. If they took Oak, they could foster him under the sea. They could marry him to Nicasia. They could have a Greenbrier line of their own loyal to the Undersea. They would have options beyond Balakin for access to the throne, which cannot please him. A long game, but in Fiery, that's a reasonable way to play. This crimson creature, Orlaf asked her daughter. You really believe he can make a new crown? My heart feels for a moment as though it stuttered to a stop. I am glad no one was looking at me, because in that moment I do not believe I could have hidden my horror. He made the blood crown, says Balakin. If he made that, surely he can make another. If they don't need the blood crown, then they don't need Oak. They don't need to foster him. Don't need him to place the crown on Balakin's head. Don't need him alive at all. Orlaf gives him a look that's a reprimand. She waits for Nicasia's answer. He's a smith, Nicasia says. He cannot forge beneath the sea, so he will always favor the land. But with the death of the Elder King, he craves glory. He wishes to have a High King who will give him that. This is their plan, I tell myself to try to stifle the panic I feel. I know their plan. If I can escape, then I can stop it. And I think Grim sends back before he finishes the crown. I sometimes doubt my effectiveness as a seneschal, but never as a killer. Little Minnow, Orlaf says, her attention returning to me. Tell me what Cardan promised you to help him. But see, Nicasia begins, but Orlaf looks, silences her. Daughter, says the Queen of the Undersea, you do not see what is right beneath your nose. Cardan got a throne from this girl. Stop searching for what she has over him and start looking for what he had over her. Nicasia turns a petulant look on me. What do you mean? You've said that Cardan didn't much care for her, and yet she made him High King. Consider that perhaps he realized she'd be useful and exploited that usefulness through kisses and flattery, much as you've cultivated the little smith. Nicasia looks puzzled, as though all her ideas of the world are upset. Perhaps she didn't think of Cardan as someone capable of scheming. Still, I can see something about this pleases her. If Cardan has seduced me to his side, then she need no longer worry that he cares for me. Instead, she need only worry over my usefulness. What did he promise you for getting him the crown of Elfham? Orlaf asked me with exquisite gentleness. I always wanted a place in Fiery. He told me he would make me his seneschal and put me at his right hand, like Walmoran in Eldred's Court. He'd make sure I was respected and even feared. It's a lie, of course. He never promised me anything, and Dane promised far less than that. But oh, if someone had, if Madoc had, it would have been very hard to turn down. You're telling me that you betrayed your father and put that fool on the throne in exchange for a job? Balakin demands incredulously. Being the High King of Elfham is also a job, I return. And look at what has been sacrificed to get that. For a moment I pause, wondering if I have spoken too harshly for them to believe I am still glamoured. But Orlaf only smiles. True, my dear, she says after a pause. And aren't we putting our faith in Grimsen, even as we offer him a not particularly dissimilar reward? Balakin looks unhappy, but he doesn't dispute it. Far easier to believe that Cardan was the mastermind than a mortal girl. I managed to eat 3 more slices of fish and drink some kind of toasted rice and seaweed tea through a clever straw that leaves it unmixed with seawater before I am led to a sea cave. Nicasia accompanies the merfolk guards taking me there. This is no bedchamber, but a cage. Once I am pushed through, however, I discover that while I am still soaking wet, my surroundings are dry and filled with air. I abruptly can't breathe. I choke, my body is spasming, and up from my lungs comes all that water, along with a few pieces of partially digested fish. Nicasia laughs. Then, glamour heavy in her voice, she speaks. Isn't this a beautiful room? What I see is only a rough stone floor, no furniture, no nothing. Her voice is dreamy. You love the 4-poster bed wrapped in coverlets and the cunning little side tables and your own pot of tea still steaming. It will be perfectly warm and delicious whenever you try it. She sets down a glass of seawater on the floor. I guess that's the tea. If I drink it, as she suggests, my body will become quickly dehydrated. Mortals can go for a few days without fresh water, but since I was breathing seawater, I may already be in trouble. You know, she says as I pretend to admire the room, turning around in it in awe, feeling foolish. Nothing I could do to you will be as terrible as what you'll do to yourself. I turn to her, frowning in the pretense of puzzlement. No matter, she says, and leaves me to spend the rest of the evening tossing and turning on the hard floor, trying to seem as though I feel it is the height of comfort.